So first is, one of the most important things I want people to understand is that the FDA functions quite efficiently when compared to other regulatory agencies across the world. We've done work that showed that the FDA actually reviews new drugs, average 2 to 3 months faster than peer agencies like the European Medicines Agency and Health Canada. And they do that because, primarily because patients, clinicians, congressmen, industry, the world of people in the United States want drugs to reach the market as quickly as possible. What that means, though, is that we often don't know as much about the side effects of a drug until it's reached the market. And it's not only that we review drugs more quickly, but actually drugs reach the market in the US first. So in many ways, the FDA is doing its job that the American people want it to do. So 2/3 of drugs that have been approved over a 10-year period were approved first in the United States as compared to Europe. But to do this, they're supposed to review clinical trials and evidence as part of any dossier when it's coming to market. And there's a number of extraordinary scientists at the FDA who review these materials. They've reported up to their medical officers. And again, the point I want to make with this slide is the evidence that actually supports the approval of these products is probably less stringent than you or I would think would be the expectation. So on average, 2 key pivotal trials, these sort of phase 3 trials you hear about, the biggest, strongest ones that are supposed to demonstrate efficacy and safety. On average, about 2 trials support an approval. But about 1/3 of drugs come to market with only a single pivotal trial supporting their use. And they're supposed to then do trials in the post-market period. And these are just some basic characteristics of the trials that show sort of what kind of evidence is generated. So most of them, these are terms that people may have heard. Randomized, they're double-blinded, they have a comparator arm. Not all of them do, but lots of them do. But there's some other more important things that are often lacking. So this is what about half of the drugs come to market on the basis exclusively of surrogate markers of disease as opposed to an outcome. This is important because it creates uncertainty about what the actual benefit of the drug is. So for instance, a drug for diabetes, it comes to market, it's shown that it lowers your hemoglobin A1C levels or your sugar levels in the blood, but it hasn't necessarily shown that it reduces heart attacks or reduces the need for kidney transplants or reduces amputations. And the other thing that I want to point out is that these trials are actually much smaller than you would expect. On average, fewer than 300 patients are being exposed to the new drugs prior to approval, and that they're only being studied for short periods of time, on average of 14 weeks. This then leads to the study that Sue mentioned that our group did, which was trying to understand, well, what are the implications of having so much uncertainty at the time of approval post-market? What does it mean for safety? And this is the key slide, which is that what we showed is when we looked at all these drugs that were approved between 2001 and 2010, about 1/3 of drugs experienced either withdrawal from the market, a black box, or serious safety warnings to clinicians. And this just shows that when we push so much of our evaluation away from the pre-market period and into the post-market period, there's lots to learn about a drug when patients are being exposed to it. And so we don't always know, and so it's very important when a new drug comes to market to talk to your clinicians. What do we know? Does it work as well as we think it works? Are there safety concerns? Have there been adverse events associated with it? And to really have an open mind about stopping the drug, not necessarily continuing the drug, and your clinician should feel the same way.